This is Carol Krack for the Hastings Oral History Project on April 8, 1988. I will be interviewing Miss Sarah Jones. Miss Jones and I are at our house at 514 Broadway in Hastings. Sally, would you tell us a little bit about where you were born and how you happened to come to Hastings?
I was born in Alfred, New York, where the university is. And then my mother moved back to her home in Wellsville, and I graduated from the Wellsville High School. Then we returned to Alfred, where I had my 4 years and got my degree from Alfred. And then I went to Andover, New York, and taught for 3 years English and 1, 2, and 3 in the separate years, carrying each year a Spanish class. And then I went to Waverly, New York, which is near Binghamton, and taught there for 2 years. The building was such a nice building, and the students came to school to learn. And I signed up to return for my 3rd year when the Rochester Teachers Agency in April sent a notice that there were some very good openings, and why didn't I come up? Well, I hesitated, but my brother said, "Oh, let's have a trip up to Rochester." It's only 90 miles. And Dr. Hopkins was there. And he offered me a job to teach English in Hastings, and I turned it down. But when I returned to the car, my brother said, "Wait, that would be a lower altitude. That would be wonderful for Mother. Why don't you take it?" So I went back up and took it, not seeing what I was getting into at all.
Really sight unseen, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that enough?
Yeah, that's fine, yes. So then you came to Hastings.
Of course, I came to Hastings in my new little Ford car.
With your mother, is that right, Sally?
My mother didn't come with me, but my brother brought her after I got enough furniture in for us to live on.
Yeah.
And we hunted, her friend came with me, and we hunted and hunted, and finally found a good apartment. I thought would be, it is on Farragut and the corner of Green Street. In fact, the garage there was built for my car. But to my horror, gas had not been lined over to that area, and there was a coal range in the kitchen.
Yes.
I had to carry coal up and ashes back, and Mother had never used a coal range. Alfred had gas when I got there.
Mm-hmm. And this was an upstairs apartment.
And an upstairs apartment.
Yes.
Well, fortunately, the house at 125 Farragut had a vacancy, so that at the end of the year, we moved over there and lived there for 7.5 years.
125 Farragut, which direction would that be?
It's about 6 or 7 houses beyond. Do you know? Well,
Yeah, that's right.
It was just beyond where Elsie Wagner is.
Oh, yes, yes.
The second house beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved down into the house, which I will tell you about, having moved from Farragut down onto Rosedale. And there I lived for about 32 years. And the landlord wanted to rent his apartments furnished. So I was able to come up to the Schmidt house on Farragut at 103,
yes.
where I now reside.
And you're still upstairs, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Well, can you tell us a little bit about what the high school was like when you came in 1925?
Do you mean the buildings or?
Yes, let's start out with the buildings.
Well, I was shocked and horrified to find that there was the, did he say Washington?
Washington Wing, yes.
There was the Washington building, and back of that, this small brick building which runs along the playground of Hillside.
On Hillside Avenue, yes.
And there is where I landed, and I had come from this beautiful big high school.
Yes.
Then I think that it was about a year and a half, and they began to move the houses, two of them off Farragut, and on the corner of Farragut and Mount Hope was a nice home. That, when I was teaching, the first floor was the nurse's office. Upstairs was Dr. Hopkins' office, Olive Connolly's office, and several classes of the younger children.
Yes.
That was moved down Rosedale, and I lived on the second floor, as I have told you.
You mean they actually moved the house?
Sure.
To Rosedale?
I thought.
Can you imagine?
And they built, I think, it was 1927. I looked today for the date and couldn't find it. It's been removed, I think. And I moved into that building next to the principal's
I
office.
see.
And there I taught in high school English, taught by what I had come for. And in 1932, they moved several houses off School Street and built that section which runs down School Street.
Yes.
And I was moved up to the end of that to room 421. The new gym extends down toward Hillside, but that was built after I retired.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Buildings. Now what? The classes?
Tell us a little about the classes. Did you have big classes or mixed abilities? And
Our classes were very much mixed ability,
yes.
which was the problem, because I was told that the big problem of the school was to keep the boys in school.
Oh, yes.
As soon as it was legal, I think the age was 16, they wanted to quit. And the school principal and Dr. Hopkins wanted to keep everybody there. These people had ability. English was difficult for them. It was the thing that was making them quit. And that was the challenge which left me here teaching for 39 years and substituting 2 more. The first years I was here, I played the piano for night school.
You played the piano for night school.
And that was very interesting because we were getting these people who thought English was too difficult for them, coming up and getting themselves ready to be just like everybody else, good American citizens with good jobs.
Yes, yes.
Now wait a minute.
Well, I don't understand why you were playing the piano, Sally.
We sang before. We sang American songs.
Oh, I see. All right. Interesting. Yes.
We began our night school with songs to make it
more fun. Yes.
To make it kind of easy.
A feeling of fellowship.
Right.
Yes, I can see that.
And alas, I had some who needed help in their living, and it challenged me greatly.
Yes. Yes. All right. Now, and
The classes, of course, grew fast. Otherwise, these buildings wouldn't have begun to build.
of course.
And it got to where if I had fewer than 30 in a class, I thought I had a small class. And the largest class I remember had 44 members.
that's
And
so
still there was the mixture of, especially the boys, not the girls, who found English not so interesting. And of course I knew that they got lost interest in class. And naturally, when they lost interest, they began to find something else to do. And it didn't suit me as to what they...
And behavior really could be a problem, couldn't it?
Yes,
Yes.
I hate to say it, but it was a problem to the point that my superintendent wanted to sort of shield me, and I decided that I was big enough to shield myself.
Yes. Yeah.
Then the classes grew and grew, and that's why the school street. I want to tell you right now that the school has just about half the number of students it had in 1964 when I graduated as a teacher.
I see. Just about half the number. Were the children expected to do homework regularly?
Oh, you asked me that question? You do your homework, or else.
Well, I'm sure it was a
You
problem.
remember I said that when I was in the office to the principal, that all I want is a boy who is courteous and does his work, and it's homework.
Yes.
Woe be unto you if you didn't.
Yes. Did you have much contact with the parents, Sally?
Yes, because I'd meet them on the streets, and I think that it was very good. I can't remember what years we did this, but we had, every teacher came in the evening, and we had school just as we had it that morning.
For the parents, is
For
that
the
right?
parents.
Yes.
And they could come and see their children, their young people, because it was high school students that came, the high school class that we took. They could see what we had done that morning. I asked the same questions, and I might not ask the same person, but somebody replied. And I had also put up on, above the blackboard, compositions that the students had written that I thought were, well, some of them had A's on,
Yes,
and some
yes.
of them maybe only a C, but it was well written.
And the parents, were proud.
All
yes.
of those parents were so proud to see that their sons
Yes.
were, or their daughters, what they really were doing.
Yes.
And I have heard this so many times from my students as I meet them, that when we were in school and we went home and said that we had to stay after school or were questioned why we were late home, and we said what we had done, we got licked at school instead of at school.
Oh, you at home? Yes. Yes. Oh, I'm sure. Yes.
So we were back to the end for discipline from the parents.
That's good. Yes, that's really good. So the parents really were supportive and
To the nth degree.
yes, and were very anxious for their children to
Oh, the
succeed.
parents were so anxious that their young people become just like every American boy or girl who was getting along in the world and being somebody to be proud of.
Yes. Sally, do you remember certain nationalities? There were several different
We
nationalities
had very
of children.
few Italian families.
Yes.
Um,
Russian, perhaps?
There were Russians,
And Polish, perhaps?
Yes.
Yes.
quite many of them.
Yeah. I think Dobbs Ferry had a bigger
Italian.
percentage of
They had the
Italians.
Italians.
Yes, yes. So you can see that English could...
Czechoslovakia.
Oh, yes, I'm sure.
Many of them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And some from England and Scotland and Ireland.
Sally, can you tell us what happened at lunchtime with the children when you first started teaching here in Hastings?
Well, of course, at first, there was no cafeteria, so there was no problem. They went home. But as soon as the high school was built, there was a good cafeteria. And they came in, took their tray and went down and got their lunch and sat down. And they could laugh and talk and have a good time. But there was no throwing of food or no loud, out of order. Just like if you were to go into a restaurant.
Yes.
Maybe they were a little noisier than our, I don't think so, though restaurants now have a lot of people laughing and
Of
talking.
course, yes.
And the teachers, one teacher was on duty, and if she saw something that wasn't just proper, she just went over and said, you know, you don't do that.
Yes.
And that's all there was to it. There was never any problem, really.
But when you first came to Hastings, the school really was almost closed at noontime, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
That the children really
They all had to
needed
go.
to go home.
That's right.
Mhm.
Because there was no place to eat.
No, no. So they didn't even bring their lunches. They
No.
just went home for lunch.
Went home for lunch,
Mhm.
an hour and a half.
Yes.
And there were no buses.
Oh, so everyone had to walk
Yeah.
or get a ride
Yeah,
to
that-
school?
I don't remember. I don't think there were, the Yonkers buses went by then. I can't remember. But I forgot to tell you that the trolley came up as far as the old bank, which is on Main
Yes,
Street.
yes.
And I was told that previously it went over to the base of Uniontown.
Mhm.
So parents, many of these parents went to Yonkers for shopping.
I see. Mhm. Because there were no no big markets here
Well,
at the
there
time.
was an A&P and Ferreras, and that was a very good place because they delivered.
I see.
So we would go down in the afternoon and put the order in, and it would come up in the morning.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes. Sally, did you ever get to visit any of the homes of any of your children?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For various reasons, an illness of the pupil, help for getting people who would like to come to night school and learn
Yes.
English.
Mm-hmm.
I offered the DAR. From them, I enjoyed getting women, particularly some men, would come up. They'd be interested in night school.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I would be invited in for tea.
Oh, was that did happen in those
Oh,
days?
yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think the parents appreciated what we were trying to do for their students.
Yes. Yes. You know, I think it would be interesting, maybe this isn't a good time, but for you to tell us about how you do meet some of your former students now and contacts that you have with these men and women.
I don't think I ought to do that because they're spoiling me. That's why I stayed in Hastings, because if I get lonesome, I go take a walk. And invariably, I meet one of my students, and they stop and visit and say that now they know what I was trying to do. And I was even told by one that they ought to force me back to teach now.
Yes.
And they helped me across the streets. They stopped traffic, and I taught many of the cops, and they hold up great lines of traffic, and I've been known to say, boy, they'll want to shoot us or run us down. And I just get, well, they better not try it.
Yeah. It just seems to me that you had a very special feeling for a lot of the children in Hastings.
I have a very great feeling for young people, even today. And I am so pleased to see our high school people as I pass along, and I go out so that I'm on the street when they're going home, and many of them will smile and say hi, and I respond. And then there's some who just go along as if I were an ant on the sidewalk, and they wanted to kick me off. And I've been known to say, go on home, you snob.
Yes.
Not out loud, but I felt better when I said it to myself. How you like that? I hope someone of them read that.
Do you remember anything special about the recreation for the young people at that time? Was there a movie theater?
Oh, we had a movie theater.
There was a movie
Yes.
when you first came, or maybe not when you very first came.
I can't remember, but I know that for a long time there was a movie down on Warburton, just above the bank.
Yes.
And I don't remember when Reynolds Field were open, but I remember sitting watching games. I don't know when that began.
But you made an effort to attend
Oh, yes.
the
And
high school
also,
games.
oh, I haven't told you a very important thing.
Oh, good.
When I first came that first year, we had our own newspaper. We wrote it up, the items, and strung them along on a string out in the hall every Friday, so everybody knew what was going on.
This was a weekly newspaper?
This was our weekly newspaper
yes.
when I first came. And then we got interested, so the boys, several of the high school boys, and some who were very good in English, and some who had difficulty with it, would go over Saturday and set up type. And I'll have you know, we had a typed little sheet, and it was called Out of the Inkwell. And the board became interested in that and bought a second-hand typing or printing press. And then it still was Out of the Inkwell, but it became larger, and that was our paper for, well, I think nearly late 30s.
I see.
Because I found the 1937 one of Dr. Meyer's obituary.
Yes. Yeah.
I had that.
Dr. Hopkins was the superintendent for for all the years you were teaching, or? Well, when you first came here, he was the
I can't remember any other superintendent.
Yes.
Principals, yes.
Yes.
They changed.
Yes. Do you remember the principal when you first came?
Ted Myers.
Oh,
He'd
yes.
been here a year ahead of me.
I see. Yes.
And he died in 1939.
Yes.
So you see the paper, the 1930 died out of the inkwell.
Yes. Mhm.
Then, I can't remember their names.
Yes, yes. And Dr. Ross was one of the more recent.
Yes, he
Yes.
was. I can't remember.
No. Let me just-
Dr. Long was one.
Oh, yes.
I want to mention the girls who for so many years came and gave their evenings as ushers. They were in their long dresses and very attractive and did beautiful work getting people into their seats and giving them the programs.
This would be for any kind of program that went on at school.
Anything that when that auditorium was opened in the evening, Miss Jones was there by 7:30 and left maybe 11 o'clock, 11:30, and got bitten by a dog on the way home one night.
Oh, dear. Yes. And you were the sponsor.
And I was head of the ushers for, well, I don't know how long.
Yes. Were there school dances in those days?
Oh, yes. And I would attend them.
And a
Though I didn't
chaperone.
dance, but I often came and enjoyed watching them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We teachers enjoyed watching the progress of all students, respecting one another and working hard on the athletic teams and in school activities.
Yes. Can you think of anything else that we've missed, Sally, that we would need to talk about?
No, I didn't.
Well, thank you so much.
I spent a lot of time on this,
Yes.
searching for material and writing and cutting out because I would go too high.
Yes.
Up in the 40s, and that wasn't what I was
Yes,
after.
yes. Well, thank you so much. This has been very interesting.